When I lift my voice, let it be in song, a defiant note in the face of wrong. I won't stand alone, we'll stand side by side, 'cause we know that love is always justified. When they try to divide us, it will only unite us. I lift my voice. When I lift my voice, let it be for good. Let me care as much as I know I should. I won't stand alone, we'll stand side by side, 'cause we know that love is always justified. When they try to divide us, it will only unite us. I lift my voice. I lift my voice. I lift my voice.
Thank you for joining us for our virtual worship service today. I'm Charlene Farley, Religious Services Chair of the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship on the Emerald Coast. Like many Unitarian Universalists, I was not born into this religion, but as I grew older, I wanted a spiritual home that welcomed all people. I sought a religion that did not discriminate against anyone on the basis of their skin color, their national origin, sexual affiliation, age, or whether they believed in my God or any God. I was seeking a religion that respected the inherent worth of every human being, no exceptions. While we UUs embrace our humanity, we also know that we're imperfect in some way, but we strive to live up to the ideals stated in our 7 Unitarian Universalist principles. If we fail, well, then we pick ourselves up and we try again. If you're a newcomer to our faith, you can find more information about Unitarian Universalism on our website, UUFEC.com, or subscribe to our electronic newsletter by contacting us at admin@UUFEC.com. Our weekly worship services strive to inspire us and help us discover how we might live more fully human lives. This week, we reflect on the nature of sacrifice. Next Sunday, Memorial Day, we'll be honoring the soldiers who have died in America's many wars. It is said on this holiday that these soldiers gave their lives, the greatest sacrifice of all, to keeping our country safe from its enemies. Our guest minister today, the Reverend Beth Dana, Minister of Faith Development at First Unitarian Church of Dallas, prepares us for Memorial Day, asking us to reflect on this question: what would you sacrifice for? Let us begin now with a call to worship by lighting our chalice.
For Those Who Serve by Cynthia Landham. In honor of those who have served and those who continue to serve at home and abroad for peace and in war, we light our chalice and we offer our thanks.
Originally written as a short story by Leo Tolstoy, a famous Russian writer. And this was not exactly the story. The story he wrote was about a czar, which is the Russian king, and how he answered these questions. And so this person who wrote this book, beautiful book, John J. Muth, retold the story more like a children's story instead of an adult story. But it's the same story, basically. So this is a story originally written by Leo Tolstoy and retold by John Muth. And it's called The Three Questions. So I'm going to show you some pictures. There once was a boy named Nikolai who sometimes felt uncertain about the right way to act. I want to be a good person, he told his friends, but I don't always know the best way to do that. Nikolai's friends understood and they wanted to help him. If only I could find the answers to my three questions, Nikolai continued, then I would always know what to do. And here are his three questions. When is the best time to do things? Who is the most important one? And what is the right thing to do? Nikolai's friends considered his first question, which is, what is the best time to do things? Sonia the heron spoke. To know the best time to do things, one must plan in advance, she said. Gogol the monkey said, you will know when to do things if you watch and pay close attention. And Pushkin the dog said, you can't pay attention to everything yourself. You need a pack to keep watch and help you decide when to do things. Nikolai thought for a moment, and then he asked his second question. Who is the most important one? Those who are closest to heaven, said Sonia. Those who know how to heal the sick, said Gogol the monkey. Those who make the rules, growled Pushkin. Nikolai thought some more. Then he asked the third question. What is the right thing to do? Flying, said Sonia. Having fun all the time, laughed Gogol. Fighting, barked Pushkin right away. Then the boy thought for a while. He loved his friends. He knew they were all trying their best to help him. But their answers didn't seem quite right. And then an idea came to him. I know, he said. I will ask Leo the turtle. He's lived a very long time. Surely he will know the answers I'm looking for. So Nikolai went off to see Leo. And when he arrived, he found Leo digging a garden. The turtle was old and digging was hard for him. Nikolai said, I have three questions and I've come to ask for your help. When is the best time to do things? Who is the most important one? And what is the right thing to do? Well, Leo listened carefully, but he only smiled and went on with his digging. You must be tired, Nikolai said. Let me help you. And the turtle gave him his shovel and thanked him. And because it was easier for a young boy to dig, Nikolai kept on digging until the rows were finished. But just as he finished, the wind blew wildly and rain burst from darkened clouds. As they moved toward the cottage for shelter, Nikolai suddenly heard a cry for help. Running down the path, he found a panda whose leg had been injured by a fallen tree. Carefully, Nikolai carried her into Leo's house and made a splint for her leg with a stick of bamboo. The storm raged on, banging at the doors and windows. The panda woke up. "Where am I?" she said. "And where is my child?" The boy ran out of the cottage and down the path. The roar of the storm was deafening. Pushing against the howling wind and drenching rain, he ran further into the forest. And there he found the panda's child, cold and shivering on the ground. The little panda was wet and scared, but alive, and Nikolai carried her inside, made her warm and dry, and laid her in her mother's arms. Leo smiled when he saw what the boy had done. The next morning, the sun was warm and birds were singing and all was well with the world. The panda's leg was healing nicely, and she thanked Nikolai for saving her and her baby. At that moment, his friends, Sonia, Gogol, and Pushkin, arrived to make sure everything was all right. Nikolai felt great peace within himself. He had wonderful friends, and he had saved the panda and her child, but he also felt disappointed. He still had not found the answers to his 3 questions. So he asked Leo one more time. The old turtle looked at the boy. "But your questions have been answered," he said. "They have?" asked the boy. "Yesterday, if you had not stayed to help me dig my garden, you wouldn't have heard the panda's cries for help. Therefore, the most important time was the time you spent digging the garden. The most important one at that moment was me, and the most important thing to do was to help me with my garden. Later, when you found the injured panda, the most important time was the time you spent mending her leg and saving her child. The most important ones were the panda and her baby, and the most important thing to do was to take care of them and make them safe. Remember then that there is only one important time, and that time is now. The most important one is always the one you are with. And the most important thing to do is to do good for the one who is standing at your side. For these, my dear boy, are the answers to what is most important in this world. This is why we are here." So I hope you enjoyed that story. It's one I particularly love. And for those of you who are older and know some things about Leo Tolstoy, you might recognize the names of all the characters in the story. And I'll see you again another time for another great story.
We are here, here together in this holy
Did anyone else notice the use of the word sacrifice by one of our Texas elected officials this week? Maybe, maybe not. It wasn't in reference to Memorial Day and the sacrifices that soldiers make for their country. It was in reference to children who died in the school shooting in Santa Fe, Texas last week. Senator Ted Cruz responded to the tragedy by lifting up the bravery of teachers, students, and law enforcement who rushed into harm's way. But then he referred to the students killed as having sacrificed their lives. Now, I found this statement heartbreaking and troubling, to say the least. There was, of course, a Twitter storm of angry responses pointing out that, in fact, the children were murdered. My response was a little more complicated. The students and teachers who died may not have willingly sacrificed their lives, but actually our society sacrificed them. Their lives were sacrificed for love of guns, by failing to put in place adequate protections, and by choosing and valuing access to weapons over the safety and well-being of our young people. The lives of 8 students and 2 teachers were sacrificed. Again. The school shooting in Santa Fe and the varied responses to it have me thinking about the complexity of sacrifice in a way that I wasn't before this week. Is sacrifice a choice or not? Who willingly sacrifices and who is essentially forced to? What do we sacrifice? And who is most often sacrificed? The answer to that last question seems to be the most marginalized among us. The young, the poor, the people with the least power in our society. For centuries, theologies of sacrifice have been used to denigrate and to break down already marginalized individuals. So sacrifice is fraught when you're in a disadvantaged position already. But George Tiger, the author of our reading this morning, is in a relatively privileged position. He is a Unitarian Universalist minister and a U.S. Army chaplain. In the excerpt that you heard earlier, Tiger tells of his experience returning to the United States and walking through the airport, being greeted with, "Thank you for your service and thank you for your sacrifice." Frankly, he writes, "I've never considered my service a sacrifice. I'm well paid to do this job, and I really love what I do, 2 things that many people in this world cannot say. Privilege, yes," he says. "Honor, certainly. But sacrifice, it just doesn't feel that way to me." Now, none of us here sitting in these pews this morning have the experience of dying in battle, and most of us haven't had to face violence in schools or in war zones. So you may be wondering the same thing as Chaplain Tiger. What does sacrifice have to do with me? A common definition of sacrifice, which was actually very similar to what Noe said earlier in the message for the children, is an act of giving up something valued for the sake of something else regarded as more important or worthy. If this is so, then each of us makes sacrifices every day, not through heroic acts or through giving our lives, but by making choices about what we value and then acting on those choices. When I am presented with a situation that calls me to be truly present with someone or to extend a helping hand, and if I do that, I'll be late or maybe even miss some other commitment, whichever choice I make in that situation, I'm making a sacrifice. As parents, also mentioned earlier, we sacrifice sleep and money and alone time for our beautiful children and our love of them. When we choose to stay late at work, we sacrifice family time. When we take our day off, truly off, and don't let work creep into it, there may be something we simply don't get done, or at least not on the expected timeline. Some of you have made the difficult choice to sacrifice a job or opportunities for advancement for your own health or well-being, for truth and integrity, or for your commitment to justice. Sometimes we're called to love wholeheartedly, knowing that such vulnerability may open us up to pain. And this, too, is a sacrifice. These are the choices we make all the time, every day. Giving up one important thing for something of even greater importance, greater in that moment, at least. Such choices sometimes leave us feeling guilty, and other times we feel like the choice was unequivocally worth it. Does that sound at all familiar? Every time Chaplain Tiger walks through an airport, he is stopped and earnestly thanked for his service and his sacrifice. And he finds himself becoming emotional and misty-eyed, not quite understanding why and seemingly frustrated by it. It took him a while of experiencing this to realize what these groups of children meant and what was going on within him. He realized that what he does matters because his service represents the values that he and these children share: honor, devotion, loyalty, friendship, and yes, even sacrifice. He writes, "Maybe the uniform we wear reminds people that the sacrifices we make every day and will bear the rest of our lives, we make not for ourselves and not for them, but for something greater than any of us may ever truly know or understand." And I love this last line that he says, "Maybe they're saying, thank you for reminding us that despite all the confusion of life, there remain some truths that are truly worth fighting for." I believe there are some truths that are truly worth fighting for, and there are some values truly worth fighting for. And this is what I'm asking us to consider and to reflect on this morning. What are those truths and values that you hold most dear, and what you are willing to sacrifice for them? When I ponder this question, the lyrics of a song from the musical Hamilton come to mind. Aaron Burr, sir, anybody know that song? Burr's advice to the feisty revolutionary Alexander Hamilton about getting ahead was to talk less, smile more, and don't let them know what you're against or what you're for. Now, Hamilton's response was, "If you stand for nothing, Burr, what do you fall for? Who are you?" Indeed, who are you? What do you stand for? And what do you fall for? Many Unitarian Universalists I've heard answer this question with, "I stand for love." This is what we've explored as a church when we talk about putting love first. And this is what has propelled so many, past and present, to devote themselves to movements for justice, sometimes making great sacrifices in the process. People have put their bodies, safety, and comfort on the line for these values because they believe that they are worth fighting for. I think of those rallying and being arrested around the country in recent weeks as part of the Poor People's Campaign led by William Barber. And I think of people a little farther in the past, like Viola Liuzzo. She was a Unitarian Universalist civil rights activist from Detroit, Michigan. She was a 39-year-old housewife and mother of 5 kids. And when Martin Luther King called for people to convene in Selma, Alabama after the Bloody Sunday massacre on the Edmund Pettus Bridge, she went. She dropped everything. She left her family behind in Detroit to go to the center of the movement, where she helped with coordination and various logistical tasks. And one day, while driving back from the Montgomery airport where she was shuttling her fellow activists, she was murdered by members of the Ku Klux Klan. She made a choice not unlike those that many of us make between commitment to family and to our daily life and commitment to larger causes, like causes of justice. But her choice ended up having devastating consequences. She did not go to Selma expecting to sacrifice her life, but that was the unfortunate outcome. How many of us would be willing to sacrifice our lives for a cause? To be honest, I'm not sure I would. Martyrdom, while sometimes praised, is not always a good thing. Sacrificing of oneself instead of sacrificing oneself is another matter. It's about letting go of some things that we cling to for a greater good, and that I can get on board with. What might you give up for love of family, for peace and justice, for integrity, for loyalty to people or a cause? For example, I have at times risked vulnerability and discomfort, understanding that these sacrifices will contribute to causes of love and justice. It's a choice we make, guided always by what we value, what we feel is most important. The prophets of the Hebrew Bible say again and again, because the people need reminding again and again, that the way to please God is not through ritual sacrifices. They say to the people of Israel, do not think that the highest value is sacrificing thousands of rams or your firstborn child or your own life. What is asked of you is to live a life guided by the values of love, kindness, mercy, and humility. Do justice, love kindness, and walk humbly with your God, is how Micah put it. How you live is what will bring you into greater harmony with the divine. As we embody love, seek truth, and serve others, these values that we lift up in our affirmation every week, these guiding values sometimes require sacrifices, but they are more often spiritual sacrifices than they are material. Do not worry, you will not find us expecting burnt offerings or animal sacrifices around here, but your faith and values may require sacrifices of another kind. The Reverend Susan Frederick Gray, who has been for a year the president of the Unitarian Universalist Association, of which our congregation is a part, has been reminding and challenging Unitarian Universalists around the country that this is no time for a casual faith. She says this is no time for a casual commitment to our faith and values, and it's no time to think that we're in all of this alone. Her message is not unlike that of Alexander Hamilton. This is not a time to be neutral. Who are you? What is most important to you? How does this call you to live? What might be required of you? What choices and sacrifices will you make, both big and small? Viola Liuzzo did not have a casual faith. Her faith and her commitment to justice called her to deeper involvement in the civil rights movement. Chaplain Tiger doesn't have a casual faith. His faith calls him to minister to those serving in the U.S. Army, often in situations of great danger, where they are making choices and sacrifices guided by their values. Whether you are making choices about family or career or community engagement or how you spend your time, do not bring to it a casual faith. Reflect with heart and mind on what values guide you and be willing to make sacrifices for them when necessary. Today on Memorial Day, we remember and give thanks for those who have given their lives, those who have believed so passionately in their values that they have sacrificed their lives in wars and struggles for justice. And we mourn those who have showed up but whose lives were sacrificed against their will due to injustice or systems of evil. Memorial Day, a time when we honor lives lost in wars over the years, is a time of both memory and hope. Remembering the sacrifices made and hoping that someday there will be no more loss of life in the battlefields and in the streets. This is no time for a simple or a casual faith. Our faith must hold both memory and hope today and all days. Much will be required of us, so may we rise to the challenge. Amen.
There are Miles Behind You by Andrew Paluca. There are miles behind you and many more ahead. As you journey on toward wholeness, may all that is good and true guide your way. May the joy of love lighten every step, and the miracle that is life be ever in your sight.
All creatures of the earth and sky, come kindred, lift your voices high. Alleluia, alleluia. Bright burning sun with golden beam, soft shining moon with silver gleam. Alleluia, alleluia, alleluia. Swift rushing wind so wild and strong, white clouds that sail in life to hear. Alleluia, alleluia. Dance, flame of fire so strong and bright, and bless us with your warmth and light. Alleluia, 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 alleluia. Embracing earth you day by day, bring forth your blessings on our way. Alleluia, alleluia. All herbs and fruits that richly grow,